First Contact and Fatal Mistake. High Admiral Vexterra of the Zrelak Collective stood before the curved observation window of Research Station Helios, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light of Earth's sun. 3 sets of compound eyes studied the blue planet below, while her neural sensors processed the latest research data streaming directly into her consciousness. Fascinating primitives, she chittered to Science Director Cretel, who hovered nearby on anti-gravity pods. Look at them, still burning hydrocarbons, fighting their tribal wars, barely managing to reach their own moon. Perfect subjects for the development initiative. Cretel's sensor arrays pulsed with caution. The data is peculiar, Admiral. Their technological progression shows unusual patterns. They achieved powered flight to space travel in less than a century. That's unprecedented. Statistical anomaly. Vexterra dismissed, her mandibles clicking in amusement. Their current technology level is exactly where it should be for a pre-unified species. Their most advanced weapons are chemical propellants and crude atomic devices. They can't even detect our presence in high orbit. The research station's quantum computers continued their analysis of human civilization, processing petabytes of data collected over decades of observation. The Zrelak Collective had watched Earth since humans first split the atom, categorizing them as another emerging species to be studied and eventually guided into the galactic community. Under proper supervision, of course. The Children's Initiative is ready to proceed, Cretel reported, bringing up a holographic display of selected targets. We've identified optimal specimen collection sites, what humans call schools and daycare centers. Their young gather there in convenient groups. Vexterra's neural pathways tingled with anticipation. The collective's mission was to study developing species, and what better way than to examine their offspring. Understanding how a species raised its young revealed everything about their potential and limitations. "Show me the primary target," she commanded. A detailed hologram materialized, a facility called Brightwood Elementary, in a region humans designated as Oregon. The structure was isolated enough to avoid immediate detection, but close to major population centers for optimal observation of human response patterns. Their security is laughably primitive, reported Security Chief Mazarek, his cybernetic implants gleaming. Simple electronic locks, basic video surveillance, minimal armed response capabilities. Our phase shift technology will render us completely undetectable. Vexterra authorized the mission with a neural command. 3 collection vessels, each smaller than a human aircraft, detached from the station. They descended through the atmosphere, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to even military-grade radar. The operation began at what humans called lunchtime, when the young were gathered in a central location. Phase-shifted Zrelak operators moved through walls as if they were mist, their neural suppressors keeping the human children in a docile state. Within minutes, 30 specimens were secured and being transported to the waiting ships. Collection successful, Mazarek reported. No alerts triggered, no witnesses, no complications. Humans remain unaware of our presence. But as the ships ascended toward the research station, Security Officer Yentil noticed something odd. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual quantum signatures from the specimens. Some kind of embedded technology." "Impossible," Vexterra dismissed. "Their medical science is centuries away from quantum engineering. Run a diagnostic on your sensors." The children were transferred to the station's research wing, placed in comfortable observation habitats designed to mimic their natural environment. Everything proceeded according to standard protocols until, "Admiral," Yentil's voice carried an edge of panic. Multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. Hundreds of them, emerging from hidden silos, ocean depths, and mountain bunkers. "What?" Vexterra's exoskeleton paled. "Show me." The holographic display filled with tracks of ascending vehicles, sleek, black shapes that showed no energy signatures at all. They simply appeared, as if space itself was giving birth to them. A transmission cut through all their communications channels, bypassing encryption that was supposed to be unbreakable. The voice spoke perfect universal standard. "This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have taken our children. You have exactly 1 standard hour to return them unharmed and surrender your station. If you attempt to flee or resist, you will learn exactly how primitive we are not." Impossible. Vexterra's neural networks sparked with disbelief. Their technology level. We've been monitoring them for decades. Yes, Admiral Chen's voice carried a predatory satisfaction. We know. We've been monitoring your monitoring. Did you really think those nuclear missiles were our best weapons? That our space programs were truly so clumsy? We kept up the act because you weren't a threat. Until you took our children. That was a mistake. The station's sensors registered new contacts appearing from behind Earth's moon. A fully armed battle fleet that had been there all along, completely undetectable to their supposed superior technology. "You see, Admiral Vexterra," Chen continued, "humanity learned long ago that it's better to be underestimated. We hid our true capabilities, watching who was watching us. But there's one thing you should have researched more carefully. There is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than a human protecting their young." Vexterra watched in horror as the Earth ships took up attack positions, their weapon systems making her most advanced sensors scream in confusion. In trying to study humanity's children, they had awakened something that had been patiently waiting in the darkness between the stars. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had hidden their true nature for so long. The masks come off. In a hidden facility, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Maya Santos stood before a wall of quantum-linked displays, showing real-time footage from across the solar system. Her dark eyes reflected the tactical readouts as Earth's carefully concealed military might emerged from decades of shadows. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 20 years preparing for this moment. Colonel James Chen, her tactical officer and brother to Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen, brought up a holographic representation of Research Station Helios. The Zrylak Collective remains in position. Their engines are powered but inactive. They're clearly shocked by our response capability. They would be. Maya allowed herself a grim smile. Orbital defense grid now fully visible. Yes, ma'am. Over 300 platforms decloaking around Earth and Luna. The looks on their sensors must be priceless. For decades, humanity had maintained a careful facade. While publicly struggling with primitive rockets and basic satellites, they had secretly constructed a defense network that encompassed the entire solar system. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, quantum weapon platforms disguised as space debris, and fleets of stealth vessels that could strike from anywhere in the system. "Signal from Admiral Chen," announced Communications Officer Patel. "The Zrylak commander is responding." Admiral Vexterra's image appeared on the main screen, her crystalline form vibrating with barely contained panic. "This is impossible. Your species was monitored for generations. Your technology level was confirmed by multiple independent surveys. Did it ever occur to you," General Santos replied coldly, "that we wanted to be monitored? That we deliberately maintained an appearance of primitive development while watching those who watched us?" The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. "But why? If you possessed such advancement, why hide it?" "Because humanity learned its lessons well, Admiral. When European explorers found Native American tribes, they deemed them primitive and sought to exploit them. When technologically advanced nations encountered less developed ones, the result was usually conquest or colonization. We decided that when humanity reached the stars, we would not be the primitives in someone else's story." On secondary screens, Maya could see Earth's true military capability revealing itself. Quantum phase ships emerged from dimensional pockets where they had waited for years. Weapon systems that bent space itself powered up across the solar system. And most importantly, the specialized units of Operation Parents' Rage were moving into position. "You still don't understand what you've done," Maya continued. "Those children you took, each one carries a quantum entangled tracker that's been part of human genetic code for 3 generations. We knew the moment you took them. We knew exactly where they were. We just needed you to bring them to your main research facility. Vexterra's exoskeleton paled further. The specimens, they were tagged all along. They're not specimens. They're our children. And their parents. Let me introduce you to some of them. The display split to show multiple feeds, a team of black-clad figures moving through what appeared to be solid walls. A squadron of ships smaller than fighters, but carrying enough firepower to level cities. Individual soldiers wearing powered armor that made them look like living shadows. Those are the parents of the children you took, Maya explained. The ones from Oregon? Their mothers and fathers are Navy SEALs, Delta Force operators, and special operations specialists. The ones from Colorado. Their parents helped design our quantum weapons. And those kids from Montana. Their entire families are part of our deep space special forces. Vexterra's neural sensors were practically smoking with overload, but they were in a primitive educational facility, in an isolated region. Because we wanted them to have normal lives. Maya's voice cracked with controlled fury. They were supposed to be safe, learning, and playing like children should. Instead, you took them from their classrooms and their playgrounds. You took them from their parents. Parents who have spent their entire careers preparing for exactly this type of threat. On the tactical displays, Earth's forces had completely surrounded the research station. Special operations teams were already phase-shifted into position throughout the facility's hull, waiting for the order. The entire Sol system had become a closing trap. You have 45 minutes remaining, Maya stated flatly. Return our children unharmed and surrender your station, or witness firsthand why humanity chose to hide its true nature. Because what you're seeing now, this is just what we're willing to show you. As if to emphasize her point, new signals appeared on the tactical display. Massive vessels emerging from quantum gates near Saturn. The Zrylak sensors would be telling them that these ships shouldn't exist, that their technology was centuries beyond what humanity should possess. By the way, Maya added, her voice carrying a predator's satisfaction. Those children you took, they'd been conscious this whole time. Your neural suppressors didn't work because we've had quantum shielding in our neural pathways for generations. They'd been gathering intelligence and marking targets since the moment you took them. For the first time in her centuries-long career, Admiral Vexterra began to understand true fear. The supposedly primitive species hadn't just hidden their technology. They had hidden their very nature. And now, that nature was about to be fully unleashed. The masks were off. And what lay beneath them was humanity in all its protective fury. The hunt begins. Captain Sarah Mitchell moved through the hull of Research Station Helios like a ghost, her quantum phase armor making her virtually one with the shadows. 20 years as a Delta Force operator hadn't prepared her for this moment. Nothing could prepare a parent for knowing their child was held captive by alien researchers. Alpha Team in position, she vocalized, her neural implants transmitting directly to the tactical network. Visual confirmation on holding cell block 3. Through the station's walls, her enhanced vision could see her daughter Emma and the other children. They weren't huddled in fear as the Zrylak probably expected. Instead, they were systematically gathering intelligence, just as they'd been trained since birth, training disguised as games and stories, preparing them for a moment everyone hoped would never come. Beta Teen ready, came the response from Commander David Chen, his team of Spec Ops parents positioned on the other side of the research wing. Quantum breach charges set. Above the station, humanity's fleet had the facility completely surrounded. Admiral Vexterra's surrender window was closing, and everyone knew she wouldn't take the offer. The Zrylak's neural scans were showing them impossible things, human technology that shouldn't exist for centuries, capabilities that defied their understanding of physics. All teams, General Santos's voice echoed in their neural links. Operation Parents' Rage is go. Bring our children home. The quantum breach charges detonated silently, tearing holes in reality itself. Sarah's team moved through spaces that didn't technically exist, their armor's phase field generators letting them step between moments of time. The Zrylek's most advanced sensors couldn't track them because they were literally out of sync with normal spacetime. "Mom." Emma's voice rang through Sarah's neural link. The children had activated their own quantum communicators, technology that had been part of their bodies since conception. "We've mapped the whole facility. Sending tactical data now." Pride swelled in Sarah's chest, even as she moved toward her daughter's position. 10 years old, and Emma was already executing perfect battlefield intelligence gathering. The other children were doing the same, their supposedly primitive games of hide and seek and capture the flag revealing themselves as the combat training they'd always been. "Security response incoming," warned Lieutenant Rodriguez, another parent on Alpha Team. "They're using some kind of crystalline battle forms." Zrylek security forces rounded the corner, towering crystalline figures bristling with energy weapons. They found themselves firing at shadows as the human strike teams phased in and out of normal space, their quantum weapons bypassing shields that the aliens had thought impenetrable. "Remember," Sarah commanded, "non-lethal takedowns only. These idiots may have taken our kids, but we're showing the galaxy how humanity handles threats." Her quantum pulse rifle fired microscopic black holes that collapsed into temporary gravity wells, pulling the crystalline aliens into submission without harming them. Throughout the station, other parent teams were executing similar maneuvers. Navy SEAL fathers and mothers whose children had been taken from the Oregon school moved like liquid darkness through the facility's power core. Special operations teams made up of parents from the Colorado kidnappings systematically disabled the station's quantum research labs. And the Montana kids' parents. They were doing what deep space special forces did best, ensuring that no Zrylek vessel in the system could power up its engines without permission. "This is remarkable." Emma's voice came through again as Sarah's team approached the holding cells. "Their quantum computation arrays are at least trying to be advanced, Mom. Though their understanding of dimensional mechanics is kind of cute." Sarah couldn't help but smile. Her daughter, casually analyzing alien technology while in the middle of a hostage situation. This was why humanity had hidden its true nature, so their children could grow up learning and playing and exploring, without the weight of galactic politics on their shoulders. Until someone was foolish enough to threaten that childhood. Admiral Vexterra's panicked voice echoed through the station's communications. "How is this possible? Your species was supposed to be centuries away from quantum engineering." "That's the problem with assumptions, Admiral," Sarah replied as her team prepared to breach the final barrier to the holding cells. "You saw what we wanted you to see. While you watched us play with rockets, we were building quantum gates. While you studied our primitive computers, we were coding in 11 dimensions. And while you thought our children were helpless specimens, they were gathering everything we need to dismantle your entire research program." The barrier between Sarah and the holding cells vanished as Beta Team's quantum charges reconfigured its atomic structure. The children were already standing ready, their own basic training revealing itself as they moved to predetermined extraction points with practiced precision. Emma ran to her mother, their quantum armor synchronizing automatically. "Did you see their data on human development? They thought we were still figuring out basic genetic engineering." "Let's get you all home," Sarah said, securing her daughter as the rest of the team did the same with their children. "I think these aliens have some catching up to do on their research." Throughout the station, other teams were completing their extractions. The Zrylek security forces found themselves consistently outmaneuvered by humans operating on levels of technology they hadn't known existed. Parent after parent secured their children, their relief hidden behind quantum armor, but pulsing clearly through their neural networks. "All teams, primary objectives secured," General Santos announced. "Begin Phase 2. Sarah held her daughter close as they prepared to phase shift back to their extraction point. The Zrylek were about to learn the second lesson about humanity. Taking our children was their first mistake. Their second was giving us a reason to show what we could really do. The hunt had succeeded. Now came the reckoning. Breaking the hive. Admiral Vexterra stood in the ruins of her command center, watching as human quantum phase troops systematically dismantled decades of Zrylak research. Her neural networks were still struggling to process the impossibility of it all. The supposedly primitive species hadn't just defeated them. They had rendered the collective's most advanced technology obsolete. Security encryption Delta 7 compromised, announced the station's eye. Research databases Alpha through Epsilon accessed and downloaded. Quantum core containment protocols bypassed. Stop, Vexterra whispered. Just stop. General Maya Santos materialized in the command center, her quantum armor making her appear as if she'd stepped out of a shadow. Unlike the other human soldiers, she wore no helmet, letting the Zrylak see her expression of controlled fury. Your entire research initiative, Maya stated, was based on a fundamental misconception. You thought you were studying us. In reality, we were studying you. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, but these weren't showing Zrylak data. These were human intelligence reports spanning decades, detailed analyses of collective technology, psychological profiles of their leadership, comprehensive breakdowns of their strategic capabilities. Those primitive satellites we launched, Maya continued, quantum scanning platforms, our clumsy space station, a dimensional physics laboratory. Even our internet CAD videos contained encoded quantum data we used to test your monitoring capabilities. In orbit around the research station, the true extent of human military power was becoming clear. Ships emerged from quantum gates throughout the solar system, not just warships, but entire civilian fleets. Mining operations in the Kuiper Belt dropped their primitive disguises, revealing matter conversion facilities that could have powered the entire collective for centuries. Your species, Vexterra managed, her crystalline form trembling, achieved quantum phase technology, dimensional engineering, and neural interface systems, all while appearing to struggle with basic rocket science. Why? Why maintain such an elaborate deception? Maya's dark eyes narrowed. Because we remembered our own history. Every time an advanced civilization encountered a less developed one on Earth, the results were catastrophic for the less advanced society. So when we detected your first observation posts near Pluto, we made a choice. We would appear primitive, harmless, not worth conquering or controlling. Through the quantum network, Maya received confirmation that all children were secure and the station's databases had been fully accessed. What they found there sent chills through even her hardened military mind. We've seen your other research sites, she said coldly. The specimens from other primitive species, the experiments, the manipulations of developing civilizations. Did you really think you were the only advanced species in this sector of the galaxy? New holograms appeared, showing other hidden human fleets revealing themselves near dozens of Zrylak research stations across multiple star systems. The collective hadn't just awakened one sleeping giant. They had exposed themselves to an entire network of protected species under human guardianship. Those primitive civilizations you've been studying. They're under our protection. Have been for generations. We watched you watching them, gathering evidence, waiting to see if you could learn to respect developing species on your own. Then you took our children. Alarms blared throughout the station as quantum breaches appeared in every major system. Human tech specialists, the parents of the kidnapped children, were systematically stripping away every technological advantage the Zrylak had thought they possessed. The children you took. Maya's voice carried the weight of centuries of hidden human advancement. They weren't just random specimens. They were the next generation of our guardians, born with quantum engineering in their genes, raised to protect developing civilizations from exactly the kind of exploitation you represent. Through the station's viewing ports, Vexterra watched in horror as massive structures began to phase into normal space throughout the solar system. Hidden cities, research facilities, shipyards, an entire advanced human civilization that had existed alongside their primitive facade. Your research was fundamentally flawed, Maya continued, almost pitying now. You study our visible technology, but missed the quantum revolution that happened 3 centuries ago. You analyzed our public internet, but never found the 11-dimensional quantum network running parallel to it. You watched our children playing in parks and schools, never realizing they were being trained as the guardians of 100 developing civilizations. The station shuddered as its quantum core was finally shut down by human engineers. Decades of careful observation and research, rendered meaningless in hours by the very specimens they had thought so primitive. The collective has a choice to make now, Maya declared. You can either join us in protecting developing civilizations, learning to study without interfering, or, she let the silence hang meaningful, or, Vexterra managed to ask, or you can be the cautionary tale we tell the next bunch of advanced aliens who think studying primitive species gives them the right to take their children. Throughout the solar system, humanity's masks were fully off. The facade of primitive struggle fell away, revealing a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for this moment. They had hidden their true nature not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And now that wisdom would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be truly advanced. The hive of careful observation and research that the collective had built was broken. In its place would rise something new. A galaxy where advancement was measured not by technological superiority, but by the wisdom to protect those still developing their own path to the stars. Never threaten our young. 6 months after what became known as the Zrylek incident, the Galactic Council convened for the first time in its history with human representatives present. The massive quantum architecture chamber, designed to accommodate species from across the galaxy, hummed with nervous energy as Admiral Sarah Chen and General Maya Santos took their seats. They weren't the only humans present. In the public observation rings, the formerly kidnapped children sat with their parents, now openly wearing their quantum-enhanced environmental suits. Emma Mitchell, playing with an 11-dimensional puzzle cube that would have baffled most advanced species, caught her mother's eye and smiled. High Speaker Xanthor, their crystalline form shimmering with diplomatic protocols, addressed the assembly. We are here to discuss the integration of humanity into galactic society, following the revelations of their true technological status. Correction, Maya interrupted smoothly. We're here to discuss the galaxy's integration into humanity's protection network. The chamber erupted in chitters, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses of surprise. Xanthor's crystal matrix flickered with confusion. Surely you understand, General Santos, that humanity's deception, while impressive, does not grant you authority over. Let me be clear. Sarah Chen stood, her quantum armor subtly shifting like liquid shadow. For the past 3 centuries, while you thought we were playing with chemical rockets, humanity has been protecting 37 developing civilizations from exploitation. While you watched us struggle with climate change, we were preventing advanced species from interfering with natural technological progression on dozens of worlds. Holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, showing human stealth ships intercepting research vessels, quantum phase troops extracting alien specimens from laboratories across the galaxy, and underground networks of protective technology spanning hundreds of light years. Those primitive civilizations you've been studying, Maya added, the ones you thought were free for examination and experimentation. Check your records. Count how many research missions failed mysteriously, how many specimens vanished in transit, how many observation posts went dark. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their advancement. They had been actively working to protect other species from the kind of interference they had pretended to be vulnerable to. Emma's voice carried from the observation ring, clear and confident. We're not here to join your society. We're here to make sure you understand the new rules. The assembled representatives turned to look at the human child who dared address the council. Emma stood, still playing with her impossible puzzle cube. Rule 1. No interfering with developing civilizations. Rule 2. No taking children from any species, ever. Rule 3. Those who break rules 1 or 2 get to deal with us. From the mouths of babes, Sarah smiled proudly. My daughter summarizes our position perfectly. Humanity's children are born with quantum engineering in their genes and trained from birth to protect developing species. The kids you try to study. They're the next generation of guardians. Through the quantum network, Maya received confirmation that human fleets were decloaking near every major research station in known space. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. The Zrylak Collective has already agreed to our terms, Maya announced. Their research stations are being converted into observation posts under human supervision. Their technology is being repurposed to protect the very species they once studied. A new hologram appeared. A school on a world that most of the Council considered primitive. Human quantum phase troops watched invisibly as children played, ensuring that their natural development would never be interrupted by well-meaning researchers or ambitious expansionists. This is what advanced civilization looks like, Sarah declared. Not measuring species by their visible technology, but protecting their right to develop naturally. We hid our true nature because we remembered what happened on Earth when advanced societies encountered developing ones. We won't let that history repeat across the galaxy. Emma's puzzle cube suddenly solved itself, transforming into a miniature representation of the Milky Way. We're not going to punish anyone for past research, she said, her young voice carrying wisdom beyond her years. But from now on, every developing civilization has human guardians watching over them. Every child of every species is under our protection. The council chamber was silent for a long moment before High Speaker Xanthor spoke again. And if we refuse these terms? Maya's smile was cold. Then we go back into hiding. But this time, you'll know we're out there. You'll know that every primitive civilization might have quantum phase troops watching. Every primitive child might have genetic engineering beyond your understanding. Every failed research mission might be our doing. Or, Sarah offered, you can join us. Learn to study without interfering. Learn to observe without experimenting. Learn to advance without exploiting. Because humanity's children will be watching, and we've taught them well. As if to emphasize her point, the children in the observation ring all solved their impossible puzzle cubes simultaneously, creating a galaxy-wide quantum resonance that made every advanced sensor in the chamber spike with readings that shouldn't have been possible. The age of uncontrolled exploitation is over, Maya concluded. The age of protected development begins. And if anyone thinks about threatening children, any children of any species, remember the Zrylak incident. Remember what happened when humanity's masks came off. The chamber erupted in discussion, but the decision was already made. The galaxy had seen what lay behind humanity's carefully maintained facade of primitiveness. They had witnessed what happened when someone threatened human children. And now, every developing civilization would have that same protection. In the observation ring, Emma Mitchell looked down at her quantum puzzle cube, now showing a tiny hologram of Earth. Mom always said the best way to protect something is to make people think it's not worth taking, she mused to her fellow former captives. I guess the galaxy just learned why. The galaxy would remember this day not as the moment humanity joined galactic society, but as the day galactic society learned why humans had hidden their true nature for so long. Not out of fear or weakness, but out of a determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The children would make sure of it.